The Great War shaped the modern world and left a lasting mark on those who survived its horrors. Millions of brave souls fought in the trenches, but only a handful lived long enough to carry their stories into the 21st century. Today, we remember the incredible lives of the 10 World War I veterans who were last to pass away. Florence Green holds the unique distinction of being the absolute last known surviving veteran of the First World War. Joining the Women's Royal Air Force in 1918 at 17, she served as an officer's mess steward at 2 different air bases in the United Kingdom. While she did not see frontline combat, her vital support role kept the military machine running during the final grueling months of the conflict. Florence lived a quiet life after the war, raising a family and working in hospitality, largely unrecognized as a veteran until a researcher found her service record in 2010. She officially became the last living connection to the Great War after the death of Claude Choules, and she finally passed away in February 2012, just shy of her 111th birthday. Claude Choules was the last surviving combat veteran of the First World War and the last man to serve in both World Wars. He joined the British Royal Navy as a young teenager and witnessed the surrender of the German Imperial High Seas Fleet in 1918 from his battleship. Seeking new adventures after the armistice, he transferred to the Royal Australian Navy and served as a demolition expert during the Second World War. His job was to rig depth charges to blow up harbors if enemy forces invaded. Despite his extensive military career, Claude became a dedicated pacifist in his later years, believing war only brought pointless suffering. He lived a remarkably long and peaceful life in Western Australia, eventually passing away in May 2011 at the incredible age of 110. Frank Buckles was the very last surviving American veteran of the Great War, having lied about his age to enlist in the United States Army at just 16. Desperate to reach the front lines, he served as an ambulance driver in France, witnessing the grim aftermath of trench warfare as he transported dying soldiers away from the blood and mud. During the Second World War, Frank worked as a civilian in the Philippines when he was captured by the Japanese and spent 3 brutal years in an internment camp. He survived starvation and disease, returning home to run a farm in West Virginia for the rest of his life. Frank spent his final years advocating for a national memorial in Washington, passing away in February 2011 at 110 years old. John Babcock stands as the final surviving veteran of the Canadian military forces that fought in the First World War. Like many young men of his era, he lied about his age to join the army at 15, eager to do his part for the British Empire. He was sent to England for training, but was placed in the Young Soldiers Battalion, a holding unit for underage recruits kept back from the front lines. The war ended before John could be sent into the meat grinder of the Western Front, a twist of fate that almost certainly saved his life. He moved to the United States in the 1920s, served in the American military during World War II, and built a successful career. John passed away in February 2010 at 109. Harry Patch was famously known as the Last Tommy, the final surviving soldier to have fought in the horrific trenches of the Western Front. Conscripted into the British Army, Harry operated a Lewis machine gun during the notorious Battle of Passchendaele in 1917, enduring endless artillery barrages and knee-deep mud. He was severely wounded by a shrapnel shell that killed 3 of his closest friends, an agonizing event that haunted him for his entire life. For decades, Harry refused to speak about his wartime experiences, choosing instead to quietly work as a plumber and raise his family. When he turned 100, he finally shared his story, becoming a powerful voice for peace and reconciliation. Harry passed away in July 2009 at the age of 111, marking the end of the British trench fighters. Henry Allingham was a veteran of the Great War who briefly held the title of the oldest living man in the world before his death. He originally joined the Royal Naval Air Service as a mechanic, working on the fragile biplanes that flew some of the earliest combat missions in aviation history. Henry later fought in the Battle of Jutland, the largest naval clash of the war, witnessing the terrifying destruction of massive dreadnoughts and the loss of thousands of sailors. He transferred to the newly formed Royal Air Force in 1918, completing a unique trifecta of service across the air and sea domains. In his final years, Henry became a beloved national figure in Britain, sharing his memories with school children to ensure his generation was never forgotten. He passed away in July 2009 at 113. Lazare Ponticelli was the last officially recognized veteran of France, a man who fought fiercely for two different nations during the First World War. Born in Italy, he moved to Paris as a child and felt such deep loyalty to his adopted homeland that he lied about his age to join the French Foreign Legion in 1914. He survived the brutal early battles of the Western Front before Italy entered the war, forcing him to transfer to the Italian army to avoid being considered a deserter. Lazare fought against the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the treacherous Alpine mountains, enduring freezing temperatures and deadly avalanches alongside heavy enemy fire. After the war, he returned to France, founded a highly successful piping business, and lived a quiet life until passing away in March 2008 at 110. Erich Kästner was the last known surviving German veteran of the First World War, representing the final living memory of the forces that fought against the Allied powers. He joined the Imperial German Army in 1918, shortly after finishing high school, and was assigned to an aviation unit on the Western Front. Erich served as a ground support soldier, participating in military parades for the Kaiser, and helping to maintain the aircraft that fought desperate battles in the skies above France. Following the armistice, he pursued a career in law and eventually became a respected judge, navigating the turbulent years of the Weimar Republic and the Second World War. Erich kept his military service private for most of his life, and his status as the last German veteran was confirmed shortly before he passed away in January 2008. At 107. Delfino Borroni was the last surviving Italian veteran to have fought on the grueling Alpine front during the First World War. Drafted into the elite Bersaglieri light infantry in 1917, he was thrust into some of the most difficult combat environments in military history. Delfino fought in the high-altitude trenches of the Dolomite Mountains, where soldiers battled not only the Austro-Hungarian army, but also the deadly elements of extreme cold and sheer cliffs. He was captured by enemy forces during a major offensive, but managed to escape, surviving a harrowing journey back to his own lines. After the conflict ended, Delfino worked as a tram driver in Milan for decades, living a humble life while remembering the comrades who never returned from the snowy peaks. He passed away in October 2008 at 110. Yakup Satar was the very last surviving veteran of the Ottoman Empire, marking the end of an imperial military tradition that had lasted for centuries. He enlisted in the Ottoman army in 1915 and was trained by German instructors before being deployed to the harsh deserts of the Middle East. Yakup fought against British and Indian forces during the grueling Mesopotamian campaign, surviving intense heat, disease, and fierce skirmishes in modern-day Iraq. He was eventually taken prisoner by the British in 1917 and spent the remainder of the war in a prisoner of war camp, waiting for the conflict to end. Following his release, Yakup returned home and later joined the forces of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk to fight in the Turkish War of Independence. He lived out his days in a quiet provincial town, passing away in April 2008 at 110. Which of these brave veterans do you think had the most incredible survival story? Let us know your answer in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to Warrior Legacies.